Hello, and welcome to a brand new episode of me ranking Megami Tensei stuff. I know I've been jumping around a bit, topic-wise, but today I just really want to talk about my personal favorite game in the series, Persona 3. And it totally has absolutely nothing to do with the newly announced Persona 3 remake. Nope, perish the thought. I mean, come on, there's been rumors of this game coming for, gosh, feels like years at this point. Would I really specifically wait until Atlus announced the Persona 3 remake to do this video? Yes, and I know they gave it a proper name, but I don't care. I'ma still call it the Persona 3 remake. Also, Persona 5 Tactica was announced, which I admit looks pretty cool. I'm interested in these new characters, but if it wasn't obvious from the subject of this video, I really like Persona design, so I'm hoping these new characters will have personas, and we will get to see them sooner rather than later. But does Persona 3 being my favorite mean it has my favorite personas? Well, there's only one way to find out, by subjectively assigning them a letter grade based on how I feel when I look at them after I press record. So, today I'm going to be looking at the 12 initial personas of Persona 3. I know on some of these there's an arguable debate over whether they count as initial personas or not, but I'm just going to operate on the assumption that they are. As always, my opinions may, and honestly, let's face it, definitely will differ from yours, and that's fine. Alright, now let's find out who's man and who's isn't. Alright, so we're going to start things off naturally with the protagonist, Makoto Yuki, and Orpheus of the Fool Arcana, the first in what would become an ongoing tradition with Persona protagonists. Overall, I like this persona. It's not overly complicated or particularly powerful looking, but I think it gets the job done in a way that matches Makoto really nicely. I am actually a really big fan of the musical motif, and I like how that works with Makoto always having his headphones on. Admittedly, Orpheus is not one of my favorites, but I do like the design well enough that I'm gonna give it a B rank. Dual weaknesses with no resistances still sucks though. Now we move from Orpheus to Orpheus, but, the other Orpheus, the girl one. Korone Shiomi and Orpheus of the Fool Arcana. I don't really have a lot to say about this one that I didn't already say about the other one. I do think the heart-shaped lyre is a nice touch, and the color scheme is pretty good. But it's also worth noting that I'm always a sucker for a cute girl in yellow with red hair, so this is just that. Honestly, I'm probably still just gonna give this one a B as well. I really do like them both about the same. Then we have Yukari Takeba and Io of the Lovers Arcana. Now, I'll admit I was never the biggest fan of this one, but it is a pretty unique and interesting way of portraying this woman kind of shackled or trapped to this bull. It's got the little Taurus sign on it, which I get, but also Yukari's a Libra. I don't know why they couldn't have just made her be a Taurus. It's whatever, it's not really important. I'm just gonna go C tier on this one, it's fine. And of course, there's da man, Junpei Iori, and his persona, Hermes of the Magician Arcana. Now, this one is a little tough, because some of you know how I feel about his ultimate persona, but Hermes is just kinda not as good, I feel. However, it's still a big part of what I do like about what's to come, and it is still pretty clear that this is Hermes. I don't really like the face holes, and the color scheme is kinda weaker on this one. I still like it though, I'm probably just gonna give it a B. Next up is Akihiko Sonata and Polydeuces of the Emperor Arcana. Now, I talked about this guy a little bit on my least favorite Personas video from a few years back, so I won't go into a lot of detail on this one to avoid repeating myself. To put it simply, I'm not a big fan of the colors here, I don't like his weird mattress-looking torso, and he's just not as cool as his brother. D tier. Now, Mitsuru Kirijo and Penthesilea of the Empress Arcana is a really interesting one for me, because I, used to not like this one at all, or at least used to not care about it. I don't know. It just never really stood out to me all that much, but I do think as I've kind of played through Persona 3 more and actually used Mitsuru more often, this one has kind of grown on me. I like the dual swords, I like its figure, and I think it works well as this warrior queen with both regal clothing and knight armor. But I also really like the garters and corset and stuff. I think I'm gonna give this one a B. I really have come around on it. So, Fuka Yamagishi and Lucia of the Priestess Arcana is a fun one, because this was the first time we really had a support persona. I am a huge fan of the bubble dress thing and the way it forms around Fuka, and I do like the fact that these non-combative personas typically take on different forms to indicate their roles. That said, Lucia herself doesn't really do a whole lot for me. Not to spoil the inevitable future video here, but I do like her ultimate better. Lucia? More like Lucia, because I'm giving her a C. I don't know how obvious that was. Then we have one of the most important characters in the game, Aegis, and her persona, Palladian of the Chariot Arcana. Now, I will say that conceptually, I really love this thing. I like the idea that an artificial human would use a persona that's more a representation of a mythological object instead of a deity, person, or other figure. That was a really cool idea, which kinda makes it a shame that Aegis is like the only one to actually do that. But yeah, the concept is really nice, and I think the design is fine. I'm gonna put Palladian in, yeah, another B tier. Next up is Fluffy Goodest Boy Koromaru and Cerberus of the Strength Arcana, and I love this thing. The black, blue, and white color scheme, I really like the Doberman version of Cerberus, I like the little pitchfork feet. This thing just rocks, and I nearly always have Koromaru in my main team because of it. It's pretty rare I played through Persona 3 without Koromaru. A rank for Cerberus. A rank for Good Boy. And then there's Ken Amada and Nemesis of the Justice Arcana, and I'm gonna open this up by saying that I think I owe Nemesis an apology. Like with Polydeuces, I had Nemesis on my 10 worst personas list, but I actually had her at number 1, which I think was really unfair of me. I did talk about how much I think Nemesis was the perfect choice to give to Ken as a goddess of revenge, and that's only amplified when you see his awakening scene in The Answer. I mainly critiqued her for looking like a goofy, childish toy, while admitting that still made some sense for Ken as a character. Like, don't get me wrong, I still don't like Nemesis. This is not me saying I've come around, but I don't think she was worthy of being my number 1 worst persona ever. Especially if you watched my Rank All Persona 1 Ultimate Personas video, where I deservedly tore into Frey, because he's just a guy with a stick. So, consider this me retroactively flipping my number 1 and number 3 spots in my Worst Personas Ever video, and I'm gonna let Nemesis barely squeak by with a D. Now we have Shinjiro Aragaki and Castor of the Hierophant Arcana. Now, this may come as a surprise to you given how much I didn't really care for Polydeuces, but I actually like Castor quite a bit. I think the black, white, and gold color scheme gives it a much more distinct look, and the one-legged horse thing works surprisingly well. I will admit that I like Shinjiro as a character a lot more than Akihiko, so that may also be part of it, but overall, I really do just like this design a lot more. While Polydeuces was second to last with a D, I'm gonna put Castor second to the top with an A. And lastly, I'm going to take a look at the oft-forgotten party member of Persona 3, Metis and her persona Psyche of, also, the Hierophant Arcana. Truthfully, I actually really like Psyche. White and red is one of my favorite color combinations, and there's a certain blend of creepy and beautiful that we see with this wedding dress mannequin butterfly with proboscis design that really just works for me. I am going to end things on a high note here and give Psyche an A. Alright, and that's all 12 initial personas of Persona 3. I've gotta say, I'm actually a little surprised how neutral to negative I was on a lot of these. I had a lot of C's and D's, only a few A's, and not a single S rank. Normally I have at least one of those. Though, for whatever it's worth, I know for certain I'm gonna be a lot kinder when I revisit Persona 3 to talk about the ultimate personas. Which will probably be around the time that we're all sitting down to enjoy that shiny new Persona 3 make. I'll admit I am a bit nervous to see what kind of changes they're gonna make, but I am also really excited to give it a try and see if they fix some of the less pleasant aspects of one of my favorite games. But yeah, what are your thoughts on the Persona 3 initial personas? Do you have a particular favorite? Hopefully I didn't dunk on them too much. Regardless, let me know what you thought in the comments below, and feel free to drop suggestions for what other Megami Tensei categories you'd like to see me compile and rank one day. That's gonna do it for now, but until next time, take care.